ESPN Mock Draft time here on the Raiders Report. I'm Mitchell Renz, and the next mock draft that you're going to see, I have no idea how this unfolded. Jeremy Chuggs built this entire show, but I wanted to be able to do this so that way people who are new to the program could see what a actual live instant reaction to the NFL draft could potentially look like. If you are trying to tune in and party with us during the draft, I would definitely appreciate it. Also, today's mock is presented by Panda Sups. Use code DRAFT, 25% off at pandasups.com. So Matt Miller released an entire 7-round ESPN mock draft for picks for all 32 NFL teams. It's like 257 picks overall. I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at every single pick that the Raiders had, all 9 of them. And if you are planning on joining us for the NFL draft, here's going to be the fun part. Last year, we had 283,000 people tune in. Last year, we went live for 20 hours, 47 minutes over those 3 days. You're going to get the picks here on this channel before you see them on TV. And if that's something you're interested in, I hope that you hit that subscribe button. So the Las Vegas Raiders, okay, they have 9 picks in total. You got the first round, the pick that the Raiders ended up trading away for Geno Smith. That one was lost in round 3. So right now, as it stands, you have 9 picks in total, okay? And we're going to go through here, and like I said before, I have no idea how this mock is unfolding. So you're going to see my live instant reaction to the picks that the Raiders are making, just like you would see it live and instant reaction on the actual draft day. So the first 5 picks of this ESPN mock were Cam Ward goes to the Tennessee Titans, Abdul Carter goes to the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur Sanders to the New York Giants, Travis Hunter to do the New England Patriots, and then Mason Graham is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which means the Raiders are on the clock. And who would you pick? Would you go with Tetairoa McMillan, type TM? Would you go with Armin Membu, type AM? Ashton Genty, type AJ? Or if there was another player that you would pick, type other, and give me that name down below. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so scroll on down, give me your answer. My answer coming up here in just a second. If it was up to me, I'm not ashamed to admit this, I'm going to go with Armin Membu. I want to be able to build in the trenches, and I believe that sometimes when you go an offensive lineman, it's an unsexy pick. But people probably said the exact same thing about Colton Miller, and he's been a staple on this team for a long time. I personally would go with Armin Membu because I want to win in the trenches. And I think John Spytek has a similar mindset to that. Let's go, though. First pick coming up here in this ESPN round 1. Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if this is the pick. He is the true number 1 wide receiver. I think it'd be a great fit with somebody like Geno Smith. He is the only receiver the past 2 seasons in college football that had over 1,300 receiving yards, and it's not a secret. This team needs another receiver. You got Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers are your top 2 target getters. Trey Tucker, I love the athlete, but he's still very unknown in terms of what he's going to be able to bring to the table, and I need somebody that I can rely on down the field. McMillan can run an entire route tree. I love what he brings to the table, and I would be okay. I would be happy if this was the pick. Here's what ESPN had to say on why they decided to go this route. Ashton Genty has been a popular pick here in mocks, but have you seen the Raiders wide receiver depth chart? Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly will want to run the ball, but they didn't trade a 3rd-round pick for quarterback Geno Smith to have him hand the ball off 35 times per game. The Raiders need receivers more than running backs, and new general manager John Spytek might determine that he can wait and pick from a deep running back class later. Receiver isn't as deep, so Las Vegas should grab McMillan, whose 6'4" frame and ability to win contested catches has won him fans around the league. Some point to the lack of separation ability, but McMillan has enough juice to make tacklers miss underneath. That combined with his physicality and toughness at the catch point would make him the Raiders' instant wide receiver 1. And when I look at him, I kind of see a Mike Evans, a little bit of a Drake London, a good overall possession receiver, good hands, but one of the things that I love is Geno's ability to throw fades. I think he's actually one of the best fade throwers in the league. He statistically is the number 1 vertical passer in the NFL last season. If you don't believe me, go check out my tape video that I did on him. But because of that skill set, I like the pick there of Tetairoa McMillan, which now means round 2, pick number 37, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to go with TreVeyon Henderson. All right, dude. I mean, that's back-to-back really solid picks. I love the wide receiver. I love being able to get Henderson here at 37. I actually made a video earlier today. I put it out on my social media at Mitchell Renz 365. One of the reasons why I like the idea of you passing on Genty at 6 and going with Henderson at 37 is his ability to be an instant contributor in the passing game. He can pass block. He can pass protect. He can do a lot of different things, which obviously I love that standpoint. The Raiders also know him very well. He was with Chip Kelly last season. But when you think about all of the good, he's a home run hitter. You got to have a better offensive line. I'm not going to lie. I'll kind of want to see how some of these other picks end up going. But here's what ESPN had to say. New Raiders offensive coordinator Chip Kelly coached Henderson last season and knows what he can bring to the offense as a slashing runner, elite receiver, and top pass protector. After passing on running back in round 1, will reunite Henderson with Kelly in Las Vegas. He'd be penciled in as a day 1 starter alongside Geno Smith, Brock Bowers, Tetairoa McMillan to form a fun offensive nucleus. And I mean, you can't deny that, right? Like, if the Raiders are going to be a little bit cheaper, which they've been in free agency, you do need a running back. You do need a wide receiver. You're able to go out and get those 2 players that also have a lot of coaching connections and relationships to this organization. Like, Chip Kelly obviously knows Henderson well. Tetairoa McMillan knows Pete Carroll's son, Brennan Carroll, the Raiders offensive line coach, very well from their time together in Arizona. So that's back-to-back interesting connection picks. I can't wait to see what the Raiders do in round 3, pick 68. Landon Jackson! Dude, I'm telling you this right now. If the Raiders start their draft off with frickin' McMillan, TreVeyon Henderson, and Landon Jackson, I'm going to be ecstatic. I'll admit, I don't think Landon Jackson's going to be on the board here at number 68. And, you know, going edge, it's not really a big position that I would say is a need for the Raiders because I have a lot of confidence in this defensive line. However, I would spin it along the lines of if you're looking for a K'Lavon Chasen replacement, somebody who's long, lanky, really good athlete, I could see them going this direction with Jackson. And here's what ESPN had to say about them going this route. The Raiders locked up Max Crosby, but the team's first-round miss on Tyree Wilson in 2023 looms large. Jackson's 6'6", 264-pound frame fits the Raiders perfectly as a 6 technique. And this has also been something that, you know, John Spytek has kind of looked at down in Tampa Bay where they've tried to go out and find longer, lanky edge players that can do a bunch of different things. You're going to be able to allow him to pin his ears back. A lot of the notes around Jackson is he's a really hard-working guy, and being able to have somebody who's long and lanky also be able to work next to Max Crosby, who kind of is that same build. Jackson doesn't have the bend that Max does, but I'll tell you this right now. If the Raiders start their draft off with those first 3, I would say, in my mind, the Jackson pick might be the best player available. I would have loved to see what other linebackers were available there, maybe a free safety who would have been available there. But let's be honest, like that's a phenomenal start here to this draft. Let's go to round 4, pick 108. Dorian Strong. All right, so cornerback from Virginia Tech. I don't know too much about him. I know he's a good athlete. I know he's long. I know he's lanky, which 6'1", 185 kind of fits the bill of what Pete Carroll typically looks for in a corner. 32 tackles, 2 INTs, 6 PBUs last season for the Hokies. And I know corner is a need for this team, but my concern now is we don't have a free safety and we don't have a linebacker where we did at least address corner. And, you know, we had the Cameron Richardson, Eric Stokes, Jacorian Bennett, some of these younger guys, but they are adding some competition. Here's what Lance Zierlein had to say, and I think Chugs did tell me after the 3rd round, there weren't any more notes from ESPN of why they went with the picks. So you're going to see some, I guess, overall scouting reports from some different people around the NFL that we trust. Long, instinctive cornerback who can be a disruptive press corner or can scan the field for ball production and zone. Strong is average play strength, getting off the blocks and tackling, but it doesn't bother his press redirect or ability to effectively contest catches. So a lot of that stuff that I read, some versatility there for him, and one of the things that the Raiders do look for, especially Carroll, and this is what he's done since Seattle, if he looks at somebody that's long, lanky, and a good athlete, he believes in his coaching ability, and you should believe in Marcus Robinson's coaching ability to get the most out of a player like that. I want the Raiders to have a young cornerback room because I believe in Pete Carroll, and I do believe in this regime's ability to build corners. That pick, if you believe in Marcus Robinson, the Raiders cornerback coach, and if you believe in Pete and you believe in Patrick Graham, you should like the Dorian Strong pick a lot, because I think Marcus Robinson kind of has that love and respect around the league, very similar to what somebody along the lines of Rob Leonard has. I'm telling you this, though, if we're at this point in the draft and we still don't go out and get a linebacker or a free safety, either A, we better have signed one before, or I'm hoping that round 5 is going to be in that direction. So round 5, pick 143 is, oh shit, Will Howard, quarterback from Ohio State. I'm not going to lie, I could see this happening, and I actually did another video earlier, I think it was yesterday, about I believe that the Las Vegas Raiders do end up taking a quarterback on day 3, just based on some of the meetings that they have. Chip Kelly just won a national title with Howard, and when you look at this Raiders quarterback room right now, it's a little bit thin on the back end, right? I do think Aiden O'Connell is a good quarterback too, but to me, in my mind, this Will Howard pick is, you're letting Howard sit for 2 years at least, and you're letting him learn, and you're letting him compete with Aiden O'Connell. That's going to get the most out of AOC. That's going to get the most out of Howard, who does need time to be able to, get it going. But since that Geno Smith's going to get a contract extension, this is a 2 to 3 year project, I would say, with Howard. Kind of like what the Green Bay Packers did with Jordan Love, but Love was a round 1 pick. Here's what Zerloin has to say on Howard. Howard brings outstanding size and toughness to the table. He showed good improvement over the last 3 seasons. That I agree with. He is more a vessel of the play caller than a playmaking talent, though. He typically reads half of the field, makes responsible decisions with the football, using good mechanics and consistent accuracy. I don't fully agree with the consistent mechanics part of it. I have said multiple times on the show that when I watch Will Howard, he is a product of Chip Kelly, and you could just tell how great Chip Kelly is. You could also tell just how stacked the Ohio State roster is, from receivers, tight ends, offensive line, running game. Howard was, I almost could make the argument, the weakest link on that Ohio State offense last season. I would have loved to know if Kyle McCord was available. I would have loved to know if, Jalen Milroe would have been available, but I'm not, if the Raiders end up taking Will Howard, I'll sit up here and say, just like when the Raiders drafted AOC from Josh McDaniels, it does make a lot of sense to me. Before we get into round 6, and we still got, 4 more picks here to go. What'd you say? The next pick by the Raiders is going to be Panda Sups. And if you're watching our draft coverage, if you plan on hanging out with Jeremy Chuggs and I, day 1, day 2, day 3, you're probably going to have those drinking pants on, and you're probably going to need some Panda Sups products. I know this. I don't know if y'all have noticed. I've actually dropped 10 pounds in the last 2 months, but I've also bulked up here a little bit. I'm getting ready to get in my wedding shape, and Alex has been putting in some work, and she's making me look bad. So I know today's show is probably not going to help with all the beer that I've consumed, but if you are trying to get in the best shape of your life, huge shout out to Panda Sups. Use code DRAFT, 25% off at pandasups.com. The products that I use every day, I use Panda Sups Creatine, I use Panda Sups Protein, and I use Panda Sups BCAAs. Those are products that I do actually use every single day. One of the products that I know Panda's very proud about is their brand new Super Nootropic, and it's a product that, sometimes if you're a caffeine drinker, but you want to be able to get rid of, the unhealthy energy drinks, this is, I think, actually a product that you should really consider. It's also... It's caffeine in a way for your brain. It's going to wake up your mind instead of waking up your entire body. So sometimes I drink a lot of caffeine, and I have a little bit of a crash at 2 or 3 o'clock, which is when I go live for the show. You take a scoop of the Super Nootropics, you're going to be locked in. If you're a gamer, if you're a student, if you're a normal person who just crashes after their lunch at work, this would actually be a great way to help you wake up, and you don't have that caffeine, lull part in your day. If anybody out there does spend over $100, you're also going to be able to get a shaker and a Panda Sups bag. The only way that you're going to get that, though, is if you live domestically here in the United States, but also you got to use code DRAFT at pandasups.com. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to round 6, pick 180. Still no linebacker, still no free safety. I'm kind of getting nervous, and now we're going to go with offensive lineman Bryce Cabledew, 6'4", 306-pounder. Based off of what I see right there, don't look at the stats. Obviously, those are not correct stats. 306 pounds at that size is a little bit undersized. Some of my friends, though, are Kansas fans, and because they are Kansas fans, I've actually watched some football. He's somebody that some people do think he could be an offensive guard, and I do think that he's probably a little bit more suited to be a guard in the NFL, but the scouting report that we have on him is this. He clocked a 4.95 40-yard dash. That's pretty good at that size. 1.7 10-yard split. He also put up 30 reps on the bench and clocked a 4.59 short shuttle. Those are actually really good numbers. Plays through the whistle, embraces the mauler mentality as a run blocker. He has a powerful upper half and uses that strength to steer defenders in any direction he chooses. I'll say this. I would be a little bit surprised if the Raiders elected to go offensive lineman instead of going, again, free safety, linebacker, because this is an organization that I do think actually values their offensive linemen a lot more than even I believe or a lot of people around the NFL believe. They like Thayer Munford. They do like DJ Glaze. They like Jordan Meredith. They like Alex Kappa. If the Raiders end up taking an offensive lineman, I think it's probably more of a tackle than a offensive guard, offensive tackle prospect. But one offensive lineman I do expect in the draft. If they ended up going at, again, if they're taking offensive linemen over some of those other needs, I would be at least a little bit confused around why they decided to do what they decided to do. So the next pick for the Raiders here is going to be in round 6 at 213, and it's got to be a linebacker or a free safety, right? It's going to end up being, oh my God, another offensive lineman, Chase Lunt, which actually I've taken Lunt before in a mock draft. Really big overall lineman, but very skinny. This would be a prospect that you're going, all right, we're going to put him in a weight room, and because his tape is good. The PFF grade, I remember watching him before. He some versatility to him. I believe he's a right tackle prospect too, off the top of my head. But when you're this tall and you're that lightweight, like, you got to be able to put some more meat on those bones, and you're hoping that it's just like every man. Like, you're going to grow up to be an adult. You're going to be able to put on a little bit more weight. That would be really important for him. But back-to-back offensive lineman to me is interesting. Highly experienced collegiate right tackle who is likely to be in consideration a tackle or guard due to his lack of length. Lunt is strong in his core and hands. He does a nice job balancing through contact and using good hand placement to secure his run block. So I've talked about Lunt before. Again, like, I would be shocked if the Raiders took 2 offensive linemen before they take a linebacker or a free safety. I have no problem you trying to build depth in your interior at all. But I actually don't think that the Raiders would take 2 offensive linemen in the draft because, again, I actually do think that they are a lot more confident in their offensive line play. So let's go to the next pick here, round 6, 215. Another lineman. Are you shitting me? Yes, this is Matt Miller. I don't think he actually knows the Raiders all that well. 6'6", 314-pounder Hayden Connor, who had a PFF grade last season of 70.9. I'll be real. I don't know much about Connor, and I'm not going to sit up here and act like I do. So I see Chugs has a note here from Lance Zerloin. Experienced guard with the measurables to get longer look from NFL teams. Connor has a broad, well-built frame, and his natural power is evident when he lands with some momentum. He's played well against Michigan's Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I like that a lot. But a lack of athleticism makes him scheme-dependent. Well, I do think that Chip Kelly does a good job of being able to get the most out of his offensive lineman, but if you're not an athletic lineman, I actually don't think you're going to have as much success in Chip Kelly's system in the NFL compared to maybe somebody in college. I love, though, the fact that in the notes he did well against Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, because I'm somebody where I'm not going to sit up here and go, I love the NFL Combine, I want athletes. I want guys that can play football, right? Like, I want good football players. And if he played well against those 2 guys, then that's a good pick at the value. But 3 straight offensive linemen, I mean, come on, y'all. Y'all are even watching the show live, instant reaction with me. That's kind of crazy. 3 straight offensive linemen, no linebackers, no free safety. The final pick here, if this is an offensive lineman, we're shutting the stream down. All right, Daquan Felton. He is a wide receiver for Virginia Tech, had 32 catches, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. I forget who's the person. I had somebody DM me him the other day because he's a good athlete from what I understand, or he has the build. Because when you look at somebody at 6'4", 215, you're like, this is a really, really big player. Height, weight, speed prospect. whose production suffered from the scheme fit and quarterback play in 2024. Belton is a linear mover who needs to be used as a heavier dose of vertical routes to be effective. That I love because Geno is a very good deep ball passer in the NFL. He's honestly top 3 or 4 in every metric that is important in the league. He's a nonchalant route runner underneath with below average hands and run after the catch ability. All right, well, that almost makes me feel like he's, imagine a 6'4" Keelan Doss of a little bit, underwhelming of a player who, maybe we don't know all that a lot about, but if you can go down the field and you can win, and if you can high point balls because of Geno's ability to throw fades, I think it's kind of interesting. So I love the way that this mock draft started, and I'm a little bit disappointed that round 6 went the way that it did, because I really do believe if they would have decided to go linebacker and free safety, that would have been cool. I understand why they went with Will Howard, but I'll tell you this, those top 3 picks right there, McMillan, Henderson, and Landon Jackson, even Dorian Strong, I can get on board for. So how would you guys grade this mock draft? A, B, C, D, or F? I want you to let me know down below your grade. For me personally, if this was the actual draft and this is how it unfolded, I'd probably give it a C plus B minus grade overall, somewhere in that, because I do love the first 3 picks. Like, I do. I don't understand the 3 offensive linemen. I'm not going to get it twisted. I get why they decided to go Will Howard, but no linebacker and no free safety. Oh, man, I'm not going to lie. That one makes me a little bit nervous. For how well it started, I'm a little bit disappointed how it ended, which Alex probably says the same thing all the time. I would sit up here, though, and I'd say C plus, B minus. It's a good draft. I like the top of it, but this to me is Matt Miller not fully knowing a lot of the needs of the Raiders, which, again, is why somebody should subscribe to the Raiders Report, because I think every Raiders fan watching this show right now is going, yeah, like, I don't think that would happen. And sometimes when you get these, NFL media guys, they don't cover the team the way that we do. They don't know the team the way that we do. 3 offensive linemen, I would be shocked, because if that happens, that means they're trading away multiple players on that line, because they already have a line that they believe in. If you're looking for more draft content, make sure you click that subscribe button, make sure those notifications are turned on, and make sure you tune in for our live NFL draft coverage. I wouldn't mind the first 3 picks. Those other, Matt, sorry, bro, not going to get on board with that.